A little girl and her father, in the form of a flying drone, genetically enhance plants to save humanity. The future. In an attempt to escape an ecological catastrophe, humanity toyed with genetic technologies. New microorganisms broke free, leading to the destruction of all edible animals and plants, as well as partially of the humans themselves. The survivors huddle in so-called citadels, where strict population control and cutting-edge technologies help them survive. The rest eke out a miserable existence on barren lands, forced to trade seeds of genetically programmed plants with oligarchs from the cities, designed to produce fruits that do not yield offspring. In the opening scene, the main heroine, Vesper, along with the flying drone controlled by her father, scavenges in the mud for edible roots. Having found some provisions, the girl returns home, carefully avoiding the tendrils of predatory plants protruding from the ground. Inside, she prepares a nutritious mixture, pouring it into a bag. It is then hung next to the bed of her seriously ill father to feed him through a tube. After feeding her charge, the heroine goes to the laboratory. Along with her, a telepathically controlled drone operated by her father accompanies her. Inside, the girl talks to the dried-up remains of the dead and gathers the necessary instruments for her own scientific experiments. She is interrupted by a suspicious noise outside, emanating from one of the pilgrims, sick people gathering junk and carrying it somewhere. Returning home, Vesper notices that someone has overridden the defense of predatory tendrils. With a knife in hand, she sneaks into the house, but finds no one. However, some things are damaged, including the generator that sustains her father's life support system. The girl seeks help in the nearest settlement, where she witnesses a horrifying scene. The locals, showing signs of genetic degeneration on their faces, surround a wounded jag, an artificially grown creature, for labor. The elder of the settlement, Jonas, appears. He orders the culprit in the incident to finish off the wounded jag to end its suffering. Though not immediately, the young man slashes the worker with a knife. After ordering to remove the body, Jonas talks to Vesper, who happens to be his niece. The girl asks her uncle for the necessary parts for repair, but he refuses to help for free. Times are tough. So, the heroine offers her blood in exchange. He uses it in trading with the Citadel. When she asks for payment, Jonas instructs her to come back in a couple of days. First, she needs to sell her blood. But her father won't last that long, so the girl wants to take the liquid now. However, Jonas throws her out onto the street, where his children mock her. Later, Vesper returns to the village to sneak inside. When she tries to quietly enter the house, she encounters one of Jonas's children, a boy who took blood from his finger. But he says nothing, allowing the heroine to carry out her plan. Besides the parts for the generator, she steals seeds from which Jonas unsuccessfully tries to grow a harvest. Returning home, the heroine shows her father the stolen seeds, which she wants to try to genetically unlock to make them produce offspring naturally. The next day, while wandering through the forest, the girl finds a wounded woman who seems to have come from the Citadel. She is surrounded by blood-sucking plants. Noticing that the woman is still breathing, Vesper disconnects the blood-sucking tendrils and drags her body home, where she treats her wounds and removes parasites. The father is displeased that she brought a stranger, but the heroine believes she did the right thing. The saved woman could be her ticket to a better life within the walls of the Citadel. Meanwhile, a woman named Camellia regains consciousness and hides a knife under the pillow. She asks Vesper about her companion, the one they need to find. Despite her father's words, the girl promises to find the second passenger, but tomorrow, as it's not appropriate to wander through the forest at night. In the evening, Vesper tries to feed her guest, but Camellia, not accustomed to eating soup with larvae and caterpillars, refuses, even if they are the juiciest. Camellia says her father is a big shot and will help them. Vesper tells her about her mother. Once, she fell ill and left with the pilgrims. Then they examine a book about animals. Camellia, growing up in more favorable conditions, tells the girl about the habits of extinct creatures. Now, having reached an agreement with her father to bring people from the Citadel for Camellia, the girl tries to sneak into her uncle's house the next day. He has the only transmitter in the entire area for communication. The drone goes for reconnaissance but falls into the hands of Jonas. He is digging into its internals when Vesper arrives. Uncle asks why she showed up and if she knows who stole his seeds, even had to punish his son who was on duty that day. Fearing his ominous tone, Vesper grabs the drone at the first opportunity and escapes. Jonas follows, signaling his sons with a whistle. In the forest, the heroine launches the drone into flight, but after the repair, it can barely maintain balance. It falls into a lowland. The girl descends after it and stumbles upon the body of the dead boy, the one who didn't raise the alarm earlier. Soon, the boys sent after her appear. They chase Vesper and eventually catch her. While two hold her, the third puts a branding iron on her arm. At home, the heroine, in devastated feelings, tries to fix the drone. Camellia comforts her, and eventually, the girl confesses to her that her father, the second passenger of the glider, is dead. She leads the guest into the forest, where his body lies in the swamp. Vesper notices a scar on Camellia's back and realizes that she is an artificially created jag, unique in her kind, endowed, unlike others, with full consciousness and personality. Together with her creator, she fled for violating the law on sentient jags. Vesper understands that Camellia won't take her to the Citadel because she cannot return there herself. This infuriates her. She hurls mud at the woman. Returning to her father, the heroine recounts what happened. He notes that she still needs to run. Jonas marked her as prey and will punish her for stealing. While they talk, Camellia in another room tries to end her life with a hidden knife but misses. At the cry of pain, Vesper rushes to her and prevents her from completing the act. Reconciled, the girl asks Camellia for permission to study her genetic material. In Vesper's DNA, she finds a blocked code. Just like the seeds of plants, deprived of the ability to reproduce. Camellia simultaneously tells her that her creator treated her not as a daughter, but as a spouse. Remembering him, the guest starts playing on a local version of the harp. DNA suddenly reacts to certain notes, and with their help, Vesper manages to unlock the code. Adding Camellia's genetic material to the seeds, the heroine succeeds in removing the block on reproduction and on them. Such a discovery fundamentally changes the entire system of commodity market relations and, through the disruption of the economy, the entire established world order. Learning about this, the father orders Vesper to go with Camellia to another citadel and exchange the unlocked seeds for a safe shelter. To finish the experiments, the girl goes to the laboratory. Meanwhile, Jonas arrives at the house and finds Camellia there. He suggests going with him, threatening to kill his sick brother if she refuses. But realizing that she is not human but a jag, Jonas first tries to rape her and then kill her. Vesper and the drone intervene. A fight ensues between Jonas and the girls. It ends when they nail his hand to the table with a knife. The niece offers her uncle a deal. If he leaves them alone, they will give him the unlocked seeds. Then he will have his own harvest, and he won't have to collect blood from children to trade with the Citadel. However, upon returning to the village, the man contacts the Citadel via the transmitter and turns in the escaped jag. In the evening, while Vesper is conducting experiments, an attack on the house begins. Firstly, through the gap under the door, a substance resembling rapidly spreading mold infiltrates. People climb onto the table to escape it, but it keeps advancing. At the last moment, the mold suddenly freezes and begins to evaporate into poisonous but quickly dissipating smoke. Understanding that soldiers will come next, the father orders his daughter and Camellia to run to the garden. He will try to convince his former colleagues that no one else is here. Meanwhile, soldiers visit Jonas's house. He comes out to meet them and without a word, receives a bullet in the head. Quite deservedly, one must admit, as an unnecessary witness. The drone encounters soldiers near the generator, which explodes after a shot, burying not only Vesper's father, but also the soldiers who came for his soul in flames. Seeing the flames, the girl, in tears, rushes back, but Camellia restrains her and brings her to her senses. They continue the path to the garden, but silent Citadel, another plant, betrays their presence with its squeak. The soldier returns, and a fight ensues between them. Vesper smears the glass of his helmet with mud, causing him to drop his gun. Picking it up, the girl doesn't know how to shoot, but decides to throw it into the bushes. Disturbed by the swarm of fireflies, rises from the thickets and attacks the immobilized soldier nearby. Realizing that the soldiers won't stop pursuing her, Camellia decides to go back and surrender. Vesper, in tears, begs her to stay and not leave her, but using a sleep-inducing kiss, the jag puts the girl to sleep. Covering her body with dry leaves, Camellia goes to the garden where the soldiers find her. Waking up in the forest the next morning like a tramp after a heavy drinking session, Vesper returns to the ashes of where her home was. She plants a few seeds in the charred soil. 4 children of Jonas, miraculously surviving the nightly purge, catch her in this occupation. When Vesper goes in search of a new citadel, they follow her. The children travel the country, joining a line of pilgrims dragging collected garbage in a known direction. After a few days, the travelers reach a gigantic makeshift tower of junk built by pilgrims who set up a tent city at its base. Approaching the tower, Vesper, like Roland from Gilead, realizes that her journey is almost over. Leaving her companions below, the girl climbs up the fragile structure. Barely avoiding falling during the process, she climbs to the very top, to the observation platform towering over the surrounding forests. The girl looks around and notices giant domes of another citadel nearby. However, instead of climbing down and heading there, Vesper takes out the unlocked seeds and throws them to the wind to spread them as widely as possible and sow the nearby lands. And then, who knows, vegetables and fruits may spread across the land again. The film ends here.